What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video here of House Divided. Um, the draft's coming up next Thursday in a week exactly, so we're gonna go through our mock draft here. We're using this website so you guys can see who's drafting and what the available options are. But without further ado, let's get this thing started. With the first pick, who do you think Titans are going to take? I think this one's kind of self-explanatory, but
Yeah, I think it's the guy who went on Fortnite and told the world that Treylon Burks and Calvin Ridley are two of the four best wide receivers in the NFL.
and Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears
Yeah.
are the two best running backs. So yes, I think they do go Cam Ward here. I don't think it'll be a shocker here. Here, Cleveland with the number 2 pick could go a different variety of ways. It could go best player available with Travis Hunter, or maybe get their quarterback, even though they signed Joe Flacco, or maybe go Abdul Carter. It's kind of more open on this one. Who you?
I think my choice. I think the choice Cleveland's going to go with. I think you need to go with Abdul Carter. I think he can revolutionize that D line. Playing
I agree. I think any other team maybe you go Travis, but Cleveland pair him up with Myles Garrett for the foreseeable future. I think that's pretty hard to pass up on.
I agree. I think Abdul Carter is 100% the choice.
Now here, the Giants signed Russell Wilson this offseason, but they could go a young quarterback like Shedeur and try to develop him and have Russ kind of show him the ways for the first couple of years. But to me, I think a big name in the biggest city, I think they'll go Travis Hunter here. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you need to go with Travis Hunter just because of how many holes the Giants have. It'll give him a weapon offensively and defensively. I think this is a situation where he really does need to play both sides if he goes to New York. It's just a scheme fit offensively and defensively. It really helps him that he's going to be a 1B offensively because he's going to have Malik Neighbors to his side and he's going to have a vet helping him out. I think it's a good fit for him. And I don't think New York is entirely ready for a quarterback right now.
Yeah, it's not like one of those teams where they're a quarterback away. They're a lot away, and I think having a superstar on both sides of the ball if they let him play it, which I heard he said if he doesn't play both sides, he'd rather quit football. But
yeah,
let's see what happens with that. But
I think that's fine, and it works best for New York. And I think there's no point to drafting him with a premier pick if you're not going to play him in both sides. To me, he's not the best wide receiver available, and he's not the best corner available. But the fact that he's elite at both is what makes him such a good prospect. So if you're going to take him that high, I think it's because you got to play him both sides.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. Travis in New York, it just kind of fits.
Yeah.
Moving on here to the 4th pick, the Patriots. I think they need some help on the D-line, so they could go Mason Graham, but I think they're going to want to protect Drake May here and maybe go Will Campbell.
Yeah, we're agreeing a little too much today. I think the most important thing for the Patriots is to develop him, and Will Campbell is the pick to me.
Yep, I completely agree. Moving, I think down the line we'll start to screen more because there'll be more debate, but let's move on here to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, they have their quarterback.
Tackle, not guard, so that's another reason why we're slotting him in at 4. For 5, I do think the Jaguars have so many holes at every level defensively. I could see them going with a weapon if they really want and feel like developing Lawrence is the best option. Maybe if he hadn't been hurt, Will Johnson, could be an option, but you can't pass up Mason Graham at this position. I think is 100% the pick, especially because you need help on that interior defensive line.
Yeah, I completely agree. Last year, the Jaguars were one of the worst rushing defense, though, and a guy like Mason Graham to kind of shore up that middle of that defense, I think it's hard to pass up on, especially with Brian Thomas having a great year. You don't really have to go receiver or running back here. So, all right, number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders just signed Geno Smith. They could go Shedeur. Everyone is saying Tom Brady wants Shedeur, or like the Raiders are going to take Shedeur because it just makes sense. But they could go somewhere else. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you extend Geno the way you did. You don't trade for him to draft the QB right now this year. I understand there was a lot of attention to Shedeur earlier in the year, but that was prior to Geno, prior to Pete Carroll. I think the pick is Ashton Jeanty. I think he fits the system that Carroll wants to run. I think it's something he's done in Seattle, and I think it fits a little too well for Jeanty not to be the pick in the Vegas.
Yeah, I kind of completely agree. I think Shadur's going to drop a little here. Like you said, getting Gino, there's still a lot of pieces away. Obviously, they have Max Crosby, but I think they could go wide receiver, but I think Genty is the best option here for the Raiders. All right, maybe we can disagree now. We'll go to the Jets here. Got Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers out the window. This the kind of win now went into rebuilding real quick in 2 years. Yeah, I don't think they'll go quarterback. They could go offensive lineman to protect Justin Fields, or they could go some weapons, even though they have Garrett Wilson. I'm kind of leaning. They could go Tyler Warren, excuse me, but they might go offensive lineman here. But
Yeah, I like Armand Membo here. I think he's a great fit. I think he's debatably the top tackle in this class, depending on how you see him, Campbell. He's very good. I think he can slot in right on the right side. You shift Olu Fashanu over to the left, where he should be, which is where he was the lead at Penn State. And I think you have two great bookends for the Jets with Fashanu and Membo. And I think that's where the Jets should go, because protecting Fields is important this year. And even if Fields doesn't pan out, if you have to draft a QB next year, you want to have two strong tackles established to protect him.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving on to the Panthers here. They have a need kind of at corner, like defense and wide receiver. I think they'll shore up that defense a little bit. I think I might go Will Johnson here. I know he just got hurt, but he's obviously the best corner in this class. Pairing him up with J.C. Horn, I think that'll be kind of good, and I don't think they can pass that off. But they could also go Jalen Walker. What are your thoughts?
Personally, just because of the situation that the Panthers are in, I do think they might need Jalen Walker a little more, especially the way he can be an edge or an off-ball linebacker. He can play in the middle. Just the skill set that he has, I think, fits better than Will Johnson, who I do think is the best corner in this class. The injury obviously does hurt his stock a little. But they have J.C. Horn, as you mentioned. He'd be slotting in at CB2, and I just think the need for Jalen Walker fits Carolina the best right now.
Yeah, I'll go with that since they need more pass rushers here. Moving on to New Orleans. This is honestly where I see Shedeur.
This is where I see Shedeur going as well. The Derek Carr injury news was obviously what led a lot of people to this possibility. But even before that, I think just the fit in Kellen Moore's offense, I think he's going to be really great in that system. I think it's a perfect system that can really lead him to success and fit mold to his skill set. I think New Orleans is a good fit for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he doesn't go here, if he somehow drops, it'll be a while till we see him go.
Yeah, maybe if he goes here, it might be up till 21 at Pittsburgh is really the next big fit.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the Saints are going to go here. We'll go with Shedeur. Number 10, I think there's a lot of options. There's a lot of edge rushers they could go, but since Caleb Williams, we saw him get a little attacked last year, I think they're going to go Kelvin Banks here, and that's where I would go to protect.
Yeah, Kelvin Banks is – if I were in charge of the Bears, the pick I'd make, maybe the pick they do make, we know Ben Johnson was in Detroit when they took Sewell, and the way that was able to help their offensive line and how strong their offensive line was just over the years. But he was also there when they went a little high and they picked Jahmyr Gibbs. So I could see Omarion Hampton being a choice there. I'm honestly also not even ruling out Tyler Warren here.
Yeah, I was about to say Tyler Warren could be a good choice here, but
Cole Kmet, but I think Tyler Warren's just another level of weapon to have. But
I think they already have all these weapons they need to give Caleb time here. So
especially just knowing what the offensive line was like in Detroit and how important it is that you keep Caleb Williams upright so that he can develop properly, I think Kelvin Banks has to be the pick.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on here to San Francisco, a lot of defensive pieces left.
If things go differently with the Jets or whoever falls, I think this is a great spot to look out. If Membo is available, I don't think they think it, and I think he's the pick.
Yeah. I would also, if Walker falls too, I think they'll go here. But
All right. For me, I think this is where Will Johnson finally ends his slide. I know they have help, the necessary, a big need. I know Josh Simmons is one we could very much consider here for the Niners, but I don't think he's the best value right now. 3 tackles off the board already, and the best corner, in my opinion, is still available. And you have a strong need there, and I think Johnson is the way you got it.
even though they need edge and there's a lot of good edges available, I think you still have Nick Bosa. So I think the need at corner is a little more, especially after losing Tre'Davious Ward. So
yeah,
I'll have him.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
And here, my team, this is what I would like my team to do. I think we need a number 2 weapon next to CeeDee Lamb, whether that's in the draft or in a trade, out of one of those receivers that's asking out. I think we saw so many times these past 2 years where you just double CeeDee and the other guys can't really get open. So I would go, if there's one of those top receivers, I would go McMillan or Matthew Golden, any of those receivers, or I would go edge here to pair up with Micah Parsons. But personally, I would go McMillan just to help CeeDee out and Dak out. But
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a debate. It's who you like better, personally, McMillan or Golden. I like Golden better. I think he also fits. I think he's a big speed guy. He's also great with his route running. But I think the way Golden fits in this Dallas offense, plus just the interest we've already seen from the Cowboys for him, I think Golden is the better fit.
Yeah, it makes sense. Texas, staying in Texas. I'll go with Golden here. I like him a little better than McMillan as an overall receiver. So, yeah. Moving on to the Dolphins here.
Favorite situations in the draft. They're so different. There's so many ways you could go with here. You can consider this a spot for Jahdae Barron. He can play in the nickel. He can play a little safety. This is also a great spot for Starks, Mikael Williams, or an edge to go off the board here. I think they go DB. I think they go Barron, or I think they go Starks. It's really pick what you want. I think the way Starks is just made for this team, though, I would lean him, but for this defense. But what do you think?
I like the DB shout. I mean, but I think maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it was the year before, but the Dolphins struggled to generate sacks.
They did
in the lower end of the season. So I think they might address that here.
They might, yeah,
and go with one of the.
Mikael Williams being the pick here, or
I like Mikael Williams. We've seen these last couple of years in Philly, especially these Georgia defensive players develop into great players. So I think they'll go Mikael Williams here. I wouldn't be shocked if they go any of those DBs, but I like Williams for them.
Yeah, Mikael Williams is a great pick. I'm very comfortable making that decision here.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to the Colts here.
I think they are now the happiest team in the draft. I think they're happier than the 13 teams ahead of them. Tyler Warren just fell to them.
Yeah, I agree. Probably we saw the Falcons draft a quote-unquote generational tight end with the 4th pick and then not use them. I think that the Colts here could obviously use a Tyler Warren and him falling all the way to 14 because people don't value the tight end position as much to pick them high. So
obviously, very different player than Bowers, but I would liken the situation to Bowers a year ago. A top 3-4 player if you were looking at a big board, but because of positional value, he fell to 13th where the Raiders took him, and just what a season he had. I can see Tyler Warren be having a similar situation, falling because of positional value, and
then being the best weapon, like Brock Bowers. Yeah. Or Malik Neighbors, you can make a debate there. But moving on here to the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is where Jahdae Barron goes with his boy Bijan. I think they need some help out there in DB, and I think Jahdae Barron's obviously a monster. And you're very happy with him at 15.
I think for me, the pick is Mike Green. The Falcons haven't had any really good edge pressure since maybe like 2016 with Vic Beasley. They've been avoiding drafting an edge rusher for years. I think they finally have to do it this year. I get the shout at corner. I just think edge is too important, and they've passed on it for too long to ignore now.
You're going Mike Green over Shamar Stewart?
I would go Mike Green over Shamar Stewart. Mike Green is a little higher on my board than Shamar Stewart is.
Okay, I'll go with you.
Right.
All right, moving on here to pick 16, the Arizona Cardinals. They also need some edge, maybe some wide receiver to pair up there with Marvin Harrison. What else? Probably some defensive DBs. You can do a lot with them here with Arizona. I think I could. I'll go with Shamar Stewart. I think they'll want to get that edge position locked up, but they could well go Jahdae Barron or even McMillan too. You never know.
Yeah, I definitely see the shout for both Jahdae Barron and McMillan. But like I like Shamar Stewart as my favorite pick here as well for the Cardinals. I think it's too important of a position to ignore. Again, if Mike Green is there, I think he's 100% the pick if he's available there. If Arizona does go Barron or McMillan, but I do like Shamar Stewart here for Arizona.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, moving on to the Bengals. Here we hope and pray they take a defensive player. We saw their struggles on defense last year.
Unfortunately for them, 2 edges just went off the board. That is not what you want to see.
If any of them fall, I think if you're Cincinnati, you take them.
I think if you're Cincinnati, you have to consider so many options now. Do you want to go out back? I know you need a nickel. Barron could be a fit. You could go Booker on the offensive line to play guard.
You can go Starks.
You could go Starks to help you out back, deep back. Yeah. So there's a lot of options. I
would go with defense because they invested so much money and talent into their offense, I think.
Yeah, and they did go with Armarius Mims in the first a year ago. He's going to be their tackle this year. Even Jihad Campbell's not even a bad fit for Cincinnati, but I think I prefer the other options.
Yeah, I think here Barron's fallen a couple picks. I think if you're Cincinnati, you happily scoop them up.
Yeah, I'm okay with that pick.
Okay, perfect. Seattle, bringing Sam Darnold in, picking up Cooper Kupp.
Is very happy right now. I think Booker has fallen, Zabel has fallen, so you have that option on the interior offensive line. You can take your pick. I think to me those are the picks, either Zabel or Booker.
Yeah, here's just preference. Do you go with Zabel or do you go with the SEC guy, Booker?
I like the Booker. I like Tyler Booker. I think he's a better fit right now. I think he's the best interior offensive lineman in this draft.
Perfect. I'm moving on to the Bake Show. They'll probably go defense here.
Campbell, I think, is my favorite fit for them. I don't know what you think. What you're?
I was gonna say either Campbell or Starks for me.
Yeah,
I like the Campbell shout.
Yeah, I think Jihad Campbell is my pick here for them.
Yeah.
They've been eating a linebacker in the middle for a while now, maybe since the Super Bowl. I think he's a strong fit. He was incredible at Alabama, so I think he'll be great in Tampa Bay.
I completely agree. Now Denver picked up a lot of talented players in free agency on the defensive side. They could go McMillan here, but I think they might go running back and get Omarion Hampton here.
Yeah, I'd say this pick is more in between Omarion Hampton and Colston Loveland, but I'm leaning towards Omarion Hampton. I think he's going to be that type of running back that Sean Payton loves, that joystick, that joker, I think is what he likes to call them, that can do really everything. And I think that's Omarion Hampton for the Denver Broncos.
Completely agree. Moving on to your team, I'll let you take the reins on this one. Out of these options, who would you like to be selected? And then who do you think is going to be picked?
All right. I personally think they should go with a defensive tackle. You don't know what's going to happen with TJ Watt. Does he want out? Does he not? Even if he does stay, he signs an extension. I think you still need help on the interior. Cameron Hayward is, I think, 36. He will be retiring in a matter of years. I love Keanu Benton. I think he's going to be an incredible player. He needs another mate on the inside. So it really does come down to, do you prefer Derek Harmon or do you prefer Kenneth Grant? I
Mhm.
personally lean Kenneth Grant as who I like better, but I do think Pittsburgh likes Derek Harmon better. And since we're trying to mock what's going to happen, I think Derek Harmon would be the pick.
All right. I'll trust you on that one. Moving on here to the Chargers. Um, I think it could go a lot of different directions here. It could go D line, rushers, or they could go. I know they've been drafting them a lot these couple drafts, but only Lad McConkey is the one that's kind of shaped out. It could give Herbert some more weapons here because we saw how good that defense was last year.
Yeah, I do think they go with a weapon.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
not
think
if Loveland
Loveland.
doesn't fall, they might go with a different direction. But I think if Loveland is there, he's a
Yeah,
surefire pick to the Chargers.
yeah, I completely agree, especially with Jim there.
Yeah, especially with Jim and just the way he fits in the red zone. Herbert's been needing the threat. He's so versatile the way he can play. He can catch balls in the middle of the field, outside the hash. He's an incredible threat in the red zone. He's 100% the pick. And Harbaugh recruited him to Michigan. So
Here, we all know the Packers need a wide receiver, some wide receiver help. Obviously, they have kind of like a strength in numbers type where they throw out a bunch of receivers, but they don't have, like Josh Jacobs said, the number one receiver.
yeah.
I mean, if McMillan falls to 23, I know there's some questions around him, but if I'm Green Bay, that's what I would do. But obviously, there's still some offensive line issues or DB issues they could address.
Yeah, there are a lot of DB issues. Another player that's fallen for – oh, wait, no, he didn't fall. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong draft board. Yeah, Malachi Starks has fallen, which is a great fit for him. I think this is a great player for them. This is honestly a pattern that Green Bay loves to do. They love taking that defensive player ahead of that skill player, even if someone like T-Mac has fallen. I do see Starks being a great pick and fit in Green Bay.
Yeah, I can see that too. I was between Starks and McMillan, so I like that Starks pick for Green Bay. It just kind of makes sense. I can envision the green jersey on the back saying Starks.
Yeah. All right.
Moving here to Minnesota. They chose JJ McCarthy to be their guy. They could get him some protection with Josh Simmons, or they could get some D-line help or linebacker help. What are your thoughts here?
I think they go defense with this pick.
Okay.
Gray Zabel is another shout I'd consider here. Since he's still available, I do think that offensive line help is important, especially with a young quarterback like McCarthy still there. You want to develop him the best way you can. Amendola is another player I like here.
Yeah. I think they might go the D-line route and get Kenneth Grant here.
I could see it happening, but they did bring in Jonathan Allen. They brought in, what's his name? Javon Hargrave as well, I believe. So I think they're solid on the interior for now. I don't think Kenneth Grant is the best fit right now. I do love him since he's fallen to this point. Mm-hmm. But I'm really split between Gray Zabel and Nick Amendola. Maybe even Simmons, but I think they're stronger at tackle with Darisaw on the left. I do think it's down to Amendola or
I think they'll go Amendola here.
Amendola? Yeah.
Hey, moving on to Houston.
I think this is the team that ends the next slide.
Yeah, Greg Zabel. Yeah.
Gray Zabel is someone you have to consider here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you must like unless the drop off and picks is so much, like you have to address the issue you had last year of CJ Stroud just getting absolutely destroyed almost every game, especially on that right side with Kenyon Green, and then Kenyon Green went out, and I forgot who came in, but he was also getting lit up. So
here's the thing with Houston: you need to know, do you need another weapon other than with Tank Dell's injury?
Yeah,
you right now kind of only have Collins. You could go to T-Mac since he's fallen. Josh Simmons, because you traded away Tunsil, do you need a guy to slot in on the left? Or do you want a guy like Gray Zabel inside to stabilize that interior offensive line that was a disaster last year?
Yeah, I'm open to any of the offensive linemen. I think we saw even with the weapons, them struggle to protect CJ Stroud. So if I was them,
Yeah, I would lean offensive line.
yeah,
I tend to lean offensive line when analyzing um, situations like this, just because I think they're a little more important than receivers. Uh, so I'm split between Simmons and Zabel. Uh,
I'll go maybe Simmons since the Tunsil.
I think you go Simmons. Simmons works for me.
Yeah,
Maybe in a world there's a way where Banks falls here, but I think Simmons is the
yeah.
choice.
Now the Rams made a big splash with Devontae Adams this offseason. We saw them have one of the best defenses or young defenses in the league. Do they add to it, or do you think they get some other options here?
Well, I think if a Starks or an Emenwari falls to them, they definitely do consider adding to it. Now we're looking at an other option for Zabel. I mean, I know they have some. They're kind of strong on the interior. They have Avila, they have Donaldson. So it's not the greatest choice. Maybe if Simmons is here, maybe they go Connerly here. There's just really a lot of options for the Rams because I do think they're a very strong team and they don't have the deepest holes. I think we're looking at maybe the NFC favorites or top three options in the NFC. So
I don't think they go D line here, so I think I am leaning towards an offensive line player here.
Yeah, I could see Connerly going. It really sucks for them that we just pick Simmons one pick ahead of them.
Yeah. So, I'll go with Connerly, I think.
Okay, that works. That's a strong solution. I could see them even trading back a little.
Yeah.
If they do think Connerly's their guy.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to the Ravens. They kind of need some offensive line, some DB help, especially. I mean, late in the season, they kind of got their pass defense kind of figured out, but beginning of that season, it was kind of atrocious. They could go D-line or edge. And honestly, they could go McMillan here, maybe because they didn't expect them to fall. They could go receiver here, but I still think they might go defense.
I think they go Zabel here. I think they need help on the interior. I could see them going defense.
Mm-hmm.
They could go on the edge. They could go Pierce. They could go Aziraku. There's options definitely, but I think Zabel is my personal choice for them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. Moving on to Detroit. I don't think they need a lot of offensive help. I think we saw their defense struggle at times.
Yeah,
especially with injuries, so they might add some depth there just in case they get riddled with injuries.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely defense. We have to consider positions like the edge. You have to consider, honestly, in the back end too, the way things were going. Even some offense, if things go differently. This is not a terrible position for Zabel if he's still here.
I like the
with Mac available, but
I like the James Pierce shout for them.
I like James Pierce for them.
Yeah, especially the upside on this guy could be really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Washington, had that crazy NFC Championship run. Obviously, they still have the quarterback in the rookie deal, so they're going to try to go all in basically these next couple of years, spending money wise. So, we saw them pick up Debo. I don't think they go McMillan, even if he falls.
Yeah,
they could go protecting Daniels, or they can go some pass rusher help.
I think they go pass rusher. I like Aziraku for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I could see them maybe go interior since they lost Jonathan Allen, but
yeah. All right.
Moving on to the Bills.
I could see either Kenneth Grant going here or just the way the situation is fallen, Tetairoa McMillan.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think
maybe if I'm Buffalo sitting at 30 and you get McMillan. helps with that wide receiver help give Josh Allen a potential number one besides Shakir. I think it's hard to pass up.
I think at this point it becomes too hard to pass on him.
Yeah.
I could see even someone trading up to get him in the real situation.
Yeah. I'll go with McMillan here.
Yeah. We're not doing trades here, but this is where everybody's going to be aware for Jackson Dart. Cleveland could maybe try to jump somebody trying to jump to 32 to get him, or New York could simply just be trying to jump Cleveland, something like that. I think it's someone everybody's going to be ready for. But if Kansas City sticks and they pick, I think they can go either Nolan. I think they could go Kenneth Grant. To get Jones a running mate, I think it's a good position for them maybe to consider.
I think they go D tackle unless these two guys are gone, and depending who's available, they might go edge rusher, or maybe if McMillan falls to them, they could consider it. But
and then we have him going to the Rams. But if a guy like Connerly is here, definitely another one you have to look at.
Especially after what we saw in the Super Bowl, Mahomes not getting the most time.
Yeah, so you have to. I think you're looking at offensive or defensive line. I think it's a trench pick no matter what.
Yeah, I'll go Kenneth Grant.
I like Kenneth Grant.
Yeah. Perfect. And the reigning Super Bowl champs, they don't need a lot of help, but they probably.
Walter Nolan there is.
It's kind of looking at me.
Yeah, it's a great fit, scary fit for the rest of the league.
Yeah. Nick's scoring too, scary, but I like Walter Nolan better as a prospect.
Yeah, Scoring's not a bad shout at all, though.
Yeah.
It's pick what you want to give the champs, right? I think either way they go, they're gonna get an incredible player.
Yeah. I'll go with Nolan here.
Nolan. All right,
perfect. Our draft is complete. The Philadelphia's got an A+. See what your team got, an A.
A.
See my team.
B. B.
Okay, it's okay. We'll prove them wrong. Let's see. We'll pick a random team. Let's see what. Oh, I'm curious. No, they're giving the Bills like a A+ because
he was high on their board.
Yeah. See what they give the Titans. The number one pick, A+. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of talented players. Not a very strong, heavy QB class or receiver class. So there will be a lot of trenches picked in this year's draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where this draft class makes their money. Early and late, as we saw Kenneth Grant going 5th. We have Carter going 2nd. And even at the end of the first round, you guys, the Grant, the Nolans. Even in the middle, we had Harmon. So on the edge, we had Mike Green, Mikael Williams dominate the middle of the first round. So it's the options are there. I think it's the trenches that dominate. And then offensively, we had guys like Connerly, Simmons towards the back. We had guys early, Banks, Membo. So this is a trench-dominated year.
Yeah, I agree. I think second round we'll see those DBs and wide receivers, especially like an Ibuka, Luther Burden go.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, I'm going to be honest with this class. Just looking at the players, looking at the tape, the draft board, the value you're going to get with those second-round picks or first-round caliber players that just because of there's a lot of depth in this class in the early picks that is really, really incredible.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good draft. Obviously, we can't really predict trades unless there's heavy reports, but I think there'll be some trades. Like you said, the Jackson Dart thing will be interesting, but it'll be a fun thing to watch. One of the most underrated sporting events, the NFL draft.
One of my favorite days of the year.
Yeah. But anyway, that concludes today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and let us know any hot draft takes you might have. Thank you.